Hey everybody, Jake here, and today we're going to take a look at the Sanrenmu 7063. Real quick before we jump into the review, I just want to apologize to you guys for not uploading anything for a while. Saturday night I was in a car wreck. I'm fine, but it may take me a little bit longer to get some reviews out for the moment. I'm still a little lightheaded, and I won't be buying any gear for a while. Luckily, I have a decent back catalog, so some watch and keyboard reviews should be coming up soon. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So first up, we're just going to go over some specs. This knife is made in China. It's more than likely a copy of a particular knife. I'm not sure what knife this would be a copy of, though. Obviously, it does have an axis lock, which is bench made, and we'll get into that. But this is one of the few designs I don't believe is a complete ripoff, at least as far as I know. Okay, for specs, closed length, we're looking at 3.5 inches. Blade length is going to be 2.6. Overall length open is going to be 6.3. Doesn't make sense, but that's what they have. And weight's going to be 2.7 ounces. So it's a fairly compact knife. We'll go ahead and do some size comparisons now. And we'll just do these closed first off. So there's the Sanrenmu. Here is the CRKT Fulcrum 2 Compact, which I believe is very close in size. It does not want to sit up. It's fine. Okay, and then we have the beloved Kaiser. And then we have the Spyderco Birdfinch 2. I'm going to do some open comparisons as well. So again, this is a fairly compact knife, and I realize I've been taking a look at a lot of more compact knives recently, so I'm going to try, when I do buy some more gear, to get larger knives, and I do have a couple with me now to review, but we'll go over that shortly. So there's just an open comparison. Now I'll bring back out the bird. I'll just sit on top of that so you can kind of see what you're looking at. And actually, this would be a good choice for anyone getting into folders because of how cheap this one is. So I'm actually going to compare it to a fixed blade that I picked up recently as well. This is an SE Azula. So you can see it's very, very close to about the same size. Obviously, it's more compact than the Azula. Just because the Azula is going to have a sheath with it. Okay. And for those of you out there who aren't into knives, here's some Martinelli's apple juice you can kind of compare it to. I know the camera angle's a little off on that, but you can just imagine holding the apple juice next to the knife. This is also a good tactical defense weapon. Less useful for opening packages, though. This is very useful for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to get into the like list for this. There's a lot I like about this knife. First up, it's actually going to be the action. I did lubricate this knife a little bit, but it was already fairly smooth. The axis lock function is great. It can drop shut and be flicked open like most axis locks. The next thing I like, actually, is going to be the blade shape. If I can get this to focus. There we go. Well, the blade shape has a large flat area here, and then a little bit of belly, and it has a good tip and a nice swedge to meet it. So it's a great just general use kind of blade shape they have going on here. Next up is going to be the clip. Very springy, goes over your pocket well. It does have a bit of a ramp, but it's not terrible. Somehow it seems less intrusive than the Fulcrums, probably because it sticks out a little less, you could see there. So that's definitely not a bad thing. And it is, I guess you could call it deep carry. It folds over a little bit, but there's going to be a tad bit sticking out of your pocket, which I don't think will really bother anyone. And it will leave the lanyard hole kind of out as well if you keep a lanyard attached to your knives. Next thing is actually going to be the skeletonized liners, and I'll try to get you guys a shot of that here. You can kind of see, let me turn this on, there you go. Start using this flash more. But you can see in there they have made cuts in the liners just to lighten it up a little bit. And if I'm correct, the liners are steel and the handles are aluminum. Which is one of the next things I like, is actually the materials. So again, aluminum with steel, and the blade steel is actually 8CR13 MOV. Not a great steel. Not going to argue with you there, but on a knife at this price, it's great. Speaking of price, this knife's going to cost you around $10. You can get it off eBay, you can get it off GearBest, no affiliation. But there's quite a few places you can pick this up. Every now and then there'll be a bid on eBay. I got this one for like $7 or something. And generally I don't like supporting companies that rip off things, but I was genuinely curious, because to me these, if you're into fountain pens, Jinhao does something very similar to what Sanrenmu does. So I was curious to see, you know, what you get for your money there. Next thing up is actually the build quality. There are obviously a few things I'll get into in the dislike list, but in general, this is a fairly well built knife. I've not once been using it and felt, oh gosh, I'm in danger of, you know, chopping off my finger or anything like that. Although I will say this, this is actually the first knife in a long time that has cut me. I was just playing with it, dropping it shut, flinging it open, and when I dropped it shut, it bit into my palm a little bit, and I'll try to show you here. It does stick out just above the back spacer, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, next up we're going to go ahead and go over to the neutral list. First thing up is actually going to be the Ergonomics. This knife in general is pretty good. They have a nice ramp up here so your finger doesn't slip. There's a little bit of jimping back here. And it's okay. The Ergonomics are okay. They're not terrible. They're not great. This is a compact knife, so generally if I'm gripping it, my pinky doesn't have a whole lot to grab onto there. So it's alright, and the clip does create a little bit of a hot spot right around here and here, which is kind of to be expected. But they're okay ergonomics. Also, one thing that doesn't really assist in that is how blocky this knife is. It's not rounded at all. There's a little dip here for God knows what, but it's not really contoured. The edges aren't sharp. They're, let's see if I can get to show you. They're like beveled kind of, but it isn't much of anything really. So it's not going to be nearly as good as, you know, any other knife really that rounds it off, just because of how blocky a design this is. And you know, some people may love that, but in my hand, granted, it feels sturdy, it feels great, but it doesn't feel like it fits very well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Next up is the axis lock, and it's not bashing this axis lock. It's very well made, actually. From what I could tell, it works just fine, and it's super hella fun to flip open back and forth. But especially if you put a wrist into it, or you know, you can let it drop and close. Anyway, the reason I put the axis lock on the neutral list is because it was executed very, very well in this knife, but it's rip-off. To those of you who know Benchmade or have used a Benchmade, I guarantee you know what an axis lock is. That's what Benchmade puts on most of their knives. And it's a very blatant rip-off as well, because there isn't any variation. It's just these steel round things, and I've disassembled this knife. There's an Omega spring inside. Everything about the same. So that's something to keep in mind. If you don't care to support Chinese companies that rip off American companies, don't. Now, that's not saying Chinese companies don't make something great, because, you have your Kaiser here. This knife's fantastic. Support a company like Kaiser. In my opinion, I won't be buying any more Sanrenmu knives, but that's just me. Next up is going to be the weight. It is fairly light again, 2.7 ounces, but for a knife this size, it's a little heavy. So it's not, ridiculous, but you're definitely gonna feel it compared to something, a little bit smaller. But it's just something to keep in mind. Again, this is just a neutral list. It's nothing that I hate or love. Next up is gonna be the size. Blade size is okay. The handle size is, again, also okay. It's sometimes I feel like there isn't quite enough for me to get purchase on, just because of kind of how tiny the knife is, and I use tiny knives a fair bit, but something about a knife like the fulcrum here just feels better in your hand. Maybe it's because there's more to grip onto. I don't know. And isn't really that much of a size difference. I'm not sure what it is, but this just doesn't feel amazing, with the size it is. Next up is the jimping. So you'll notice there's some here, there's some here, and there's some on the back of the blade. You could maybe argue this gives you some grip on the knife, but it isn't very much. It's just kind of there. The blade helps a little bit. The handle doesn't do anything. This doesn't really do anything. So it's just it's more aesthetic at that point. Okay, go and jump into the dislike list here. Try to speed this up a little bit. First thing is the bottle opener. Don't know if you guys caught that. That is a bottle opener, though. Why? I don't know. Maybe because they could. But it's there. You put your bottle cap there and pop it open. But because of that, the actual tang of the blade is super small. I'm not saying it's going to snap or anything like that, but I'm a little bit more paranoid about that than, the Kaiser or any other comparable knife. I just tried to close that with an Axis lock. Doesn't work on that one. But I think it's unnecessary and more of a novelty than anything. I kind of wish they had just left it alone. Next up is the thumb studs. If you guys watch my knife videos, I don't like thumb studs. But these are a special kind of thumb stud because there's not really any space between the frame and the thumb stud. Or the scales and thumb stud, rather. So if you're going to open it, you kind of have to go from this angle over here. And you can flick it open. And it's not that hard to do. But I kind of wish they had, made a little bit of a cut inward, kind of down, sloping to where you can get to the thumb studs a bit more easy. But it is ambidextrous to a degree if you remove the clip. So that's something. Next up is going to be the handle texture. It's just kind of there. It doesn't do a damn thing. I can't feel any grippiness at all coming from it. The jimping on the back and the front of the knife are more useful than the texture on the handle. Next thing up is the disassembly, and this is simply because of the Axis lock. If you guys have ever disassembled a bench main, you know what I'm talking about. The springs and everything else are just a huge pain to get back together. But this knife can be disassembled, for those of you who care. And last thing is actually going to be the blade centering. It's terrible. It moves back and forth. And that carries over to when it's opened. You do some blade play, which is common with Axis locks in general. But, all in all, for $10 or whatever it is you're going to pay for it, it's not a bad knife. If you want to start looking at pocket knives or you like this design for whatever reason, go ahead and pick one up. I'd prefer, though, that you do support a company that innovates instead of copies. But that's just me. Completely up to you guys at that point. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep an eye out for some upcoming watch and keyboard reviews coming out soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.